Did you know that weight gain relies on insulin? Today I'm talking about what I'm learning about insulin, and I've just got a wee update on my high-fat carnivore diet as well. Hi there, my name is Sue. If you haven't visited my channel before, I've been on a carnivore diet for about a bit over 21 months, and I have now been on a high-fat version of the carnivore diet for 2 weeks today or yesterday. So quick update, I'm now down 2 kilos in 2 weeks on this way of eating, which is absolutely brilliant. Big smile. All right, so I've been asked a few times why I'm eating this high fat version of carnivore. Why would you do that, And my reason for doing it, there's a few reasons. So my first reason is that I want to correct my insulin level in my body. So I had my insulin tested a couple of weeks ago, and it was too high. I realized last night I actually had it tested in September as well, when I had my first lot of blood tests done, and it was higher then. So it has come down a little bit in the 4 or 5 months since I had that blood test done, but it's still too high. And so I'm hoping to speed that up, get my cells nice and insulin sensitive, and drop some weight. So some weight is already coming off, so this is working. And the other reason that I wanted to do this ketogenic high-fat version of carnivore is that ketones can actually help to repair neurological damage. So prior to starting carnivore, I was having a lot of kind of neurological symptoms. I was having vertigo and these dizzy spells where I felt like I was going to pass out every day. I was having those. And I just was aware that my brain wasn't functioning the way that it used to, and just wasn't quite right. So that was, I think, a lot of it was probably due to the mold exposure that I'd had in the building where I used to have my business. And so being in ketosis for a while will hopefully help to repair anything that kind of still remains from that. I actually had on Saturday a dizzy spell when we were at the markets. I was walking, and then next thing I was dizzy. I had to stop and kind of stand there for a few minutes until it settled. And then later on that afternoon, I was sitting here at the computer and had a bit of vertigo, just a little bit, not bad. But I haven't actually had any for quite a while. I've been getting the spells very rarely. And I'm just wondering whether that was because of my change of diet and just the ketone levels kind of going up, and something just starting to change in my brain, perhaps. I'm not really sure. But yeah, that's another reason that I want to really get myself into ketosis and stay there for a while, because of the benefits for my neurological system. But the things I've been learning about insulin, I've been listening a lot to Ben Bickman. He has really good information, and a few other people, and I've just been gleaning lots of information. I thought I'd talk about that today and just kind of share what I've been learning. So something that's happened over the last couple of days got me looking as well, because my fasting glucose started to rise a bit just over the last 3 days, and I was like, why is this happening? And I also noticed that my glucose in between my meals would be up a little bit as well sometimes, so maybe an hour or two after eating. And so, because what I'd been finding before was that my fasting glucose fairly quickly dropped once I started eating like this. It probably took about 3 or 4 days, and then it was fairly consistently around 4.4 in the morning. So it had gone from an average of 6.5 down to 4.4, which is pretty good. And I was finding that I was kind of pretty steady around that 4.4-ish mark, even after I was eating. But then, as I said, the last 3 days or so, all of a sudden it started to go up a little bit, just sometimes, and first thing in the morning. So I figured that it had to have something to do with insulin, and I was correct. So I went and had a look, and I found some information that I thought, okay, so this makes sense, and this is absolutely fine. So what's actually happening is that because I'm now in ketosis, my insulin level is dropping, so my pancreas is creating less insulin. but my cells are still insulin resistant. So what that means is that there's a bit more glucose floating around in my blood because there's less insulin to keep it down, and my cells are still insulin resistant. So over time that'll change, and I'll be able to monitor that by my glucose levels, which is pretty cool. So some of the things that I've learned about insulin are that can be no fat storage. There is no fat storage without insulin. Insulin is absolutely key to storing fat and gaining weight. And that is because we have insulin receptors on our fat cells. Insulin also prevents the breakdown of fat from our fat cells. And I learned that there is a genetic component, even though it's not necessarily specific genes. If you have parents who are overweight and brothers and sisters who are overweight, it's more likely that you're going to gain weight easily. And that can be because you have more insulin receptors on your fat cells. Ben Bickman said that he's just about to release a paper. They've been just done a study on mice using diesel exhaust, and what they found was that mice that were exposed to diesel exhaust had more fat cells on them. Their weight was the same as the other mice, but they had more fat cells, so their bodies were creating more fat due to exposure to diesel exhaust. And this is something that I've looked at into lots over the years. Is the chemicals, in our products that we use every day, in our personal care products, cleaning products, and all those sorts of things. And I started changing the products that I was using a lot of years ago. So I've been using pretty healthy, safe products for a lot of years, and I generally avoid anything with any kind of harmful chemicals in them because I know that they have effects on our bodies very definitely. Now, when it comes to fat, there are different types of fat on our body, okay? So we have subcutaneous fat, which is the fat underneath our skin. This is the stuff that we can pinch and kind of jiggle around. There is visceral fat, which is the fat that is inside of our abdomen, around our organs and that. Now, the visceral fat is inflammatory, and it's not a healthy fat to have. The fat cells in visceral fat grow in size by a process called hypertrophy. And they tend to be insulin resistant. So the subcutaneous fat cells tend to be smaller in size. They grow through a process called hyperplasia. I think I've got that right. Yep, hyperplasia. They tend to be less inflammatory, and they tend to be insulin sensitive. I've got notes down here so I can remember all these words. And then there is, in amongst all that, the subcutaneous and the visceral, we have white fat and we have brown fat in our bodies. So brown fat is a healthier fat. It is what it does is it creates heat in the body, and it increases our metabolism. So the fat that we store underneath our skin and in our abdomens as visceral fat is white fat. So what Ben was saying about white fat is that it can actually undergo a process called beiging, which makes it behave more like brown fat, and that happens when we're in ketosis. But this applies only to subcutaneous fat, not visceral fat. Now, he also said that fat cells can convert glucose into fat. He said some people will try and tell you that that doesn't happen, but he said it absolutely does happen. As long as there is insulin, the insulin is essential. He said that he actually has fat cells cultured in his lab, and they can be surrounded in glucose and fat, and they will sit there and stay as little skinny fat cells until they add insulin. And then once they add insulin, then they'll start growing in size. So apparently type 1 diabetics can basically eat what they want, and if they reduce or skip their insulin, then they won't gain weight, and they will lose weight as well because there's no insulin to control lipolysis, which is the breakdown of fat. But of course, that's not a good idea if you're a type 1 diabetic. So the reason I'm eating a high-fat version of the carnivore diet, as I said, is to correct insulin resistance and get some weight off, and see what changes in my body. And so far it seems to be working. I'm feeling really good. I'm in ketosis. My ketone numbers are climbing now by the day, and I'm down 2 kilos. So I'm a happy gal, and I will be doing more videos to keep you all updated on what's going on. Another way to help to correct insulin resistance is, of course, fasting, but I'm not doing any of that at the moment because my thyroid is sluggish, and so I don't want to slow my metabolism down. So I may do more fasting later, but again, because had been fasting in the past, but at the moment I'm eating 3 or 4 meals a day, small meals, with a maximum of 30 grams of protein per meal, um, and about 200 grams of fat. So I'm going to keep doing that and see how things go. And so I will be doing more videos. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe, like and share if that's something you want to do. If you've got any comments or questions, just pop those down below and I will get to those as soon as I can. I thank you very much for watching, and I will talk to you again another day. Goodbye for now.